So, a little story here. I fell in love with Sam because of his point of view on social media ROI.
ROI. It's all about the ROI.
It's all about the ROI. And it's not like we don't care about the humanizing of a brand, but what we really want to look at is if you're going to do something and you're going to make an effort at it, we really want to see how we can shift that bottom line. Because at the end of the day, my theory, the innovators and the early adopters bought. And now what we have left are the early majority or the pragmatists, and they are saying, show us the money, Dr. Nat. So, Sam, you're looking at influence and the future of influence and influence marketing. So talk a little bit about your new book and I guess you've created a whole framework around this.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I am writing a book right now with Danny Brown called Influence Marketing, How to Create, Manage, and Measure Brand Advocates in social media. And it's certainly a hot topic right now. We've noticed that, and I guess the genesis of this book was that social media has had such a disruptive impact on so many communications. But what we've noticed, because of the hype around social influence scoring, we started to take a look at how has social media disrupted that communication path from the brand to the influencer to the customer. And what we were understanding is that the influencers, so-called influencers, were broadcasting messages, but who was receiving that message, and was it converting?
Does this look at the 1-9-90 principle, where 1% post, about 9% respond, and then the 90%, right, are the lurkers or readers, which actually constitutes most of the brand's audience?
Well, and that's exactly it, and that's actually how we started our model. But we took that 99-1 rule a little bit further, and what we're starting to do now is identify not just who's the one, right? The one is the customer, not the influencer. That's how we're changing things. Because it's not the social influence world right now is basically revolving around the influencer. The influencer doesn't buy your product. So the brands that I consult with, we say, don't worry about the influencer, worry about the customer and what's their decision-making process. And then we've created something, so I'm letting something out here. I haven't really talked about what's in the book yet.
Oh, we have a scoop. I'm so excited.
We're talking about reverse engineering influence. And so when you start with the customer and their decision-making process, and then identify who impacts that decision-making process, not just who can put a product in front of you or who can make a recommendation, then all of a sudden you can start to determine, work forward again and say, all right, if this micro influencer or this small community can impact their decision-making process when they're at the store or when they're in their work environment, or depending upon where they are in the life cycle, pre-purchase life cycle. I don't know anything about your product. I just found out about your product. I'm considering your product. The way people make decisions at every one of those pre-purchase stages is completely different. And so that same one generic influence message doesn't work.
So this is really going to transform the whole notion of blogger and advocacy programs, I think, because I think the initial thing was, okay, so there are people out there with some cred, right, street cred, and if we give them the product and we have them talk about it, that's going to directly correlate to sales.
Well, that's the thought process today, right? And I guess there's maybe a lot of debate around this, but the research that Danny and I have been doing for the book, as well as empirical evidence from my own client work, and I know you've been doing a lot of this yourself, there is no direct relationship between general amplification and direct sales. There's anecdotal, like billboards. Sure, I do so much and my sales have increased by 5%.
Well, half of my advertising dollars are wasted. I just don't know which half.
Exactly.
Which, that makes me crazy being an ROI person. Like, I really want to have accountability for the things that I do, and how does that really affect either, increasing sales or decreasing costs.
But it's not just about you. I appreciate that about you, that you like to look at the numbers, the brands. I consult.
Well, I meant for the brands, not for me personally.
But that they're demanding it of me, and they're demanding it of my colleagues that I speak with at these shows. They're all saying, well, they want me to justify the dollars that they've just given me. And they turn it around and say, well, it's number of likes, number of clicks in social media, or it's about the community building. And as you said at the beginning, that's important, right? But we cannot get away with saying engagement, building this community, and, we've got 30% more engagement online, and look, our sales have gone up 5%. I'm equating the two together. CEOs and CFOs are not taking that anymore.
No, that's the pragmatists, and they really truly want to know. So, how can we learn more about where to get your book? And
Sure, I'm happy to talk about my book. Well, the book will be released in spring, in May. So if you go to influencemarketingthebook.com or follow Sam Fiorella or Danny Brown on Twitter, and we're always talking about it. There is actually, if I can pimp this, on Google+. I love Google+. We've created a community, an influence marketing community, and that's called Influence Marketing. So go to the Google+ communities, and we're starting to put out some interviews and some little tidbits that we're learning in our research. So we're crowdsourcing some of the information that will be in the book there.
excellent. So there's Sam, and you have the scoop.
That's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.